This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. We begin this half hour with news of 3 more hostages coming out of Gaza this past weekend. But their Hamas captors had starved them and turned them into living skeletons. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the sight of the hostages brought severe reactions from both Israel and the U.S.
Surrounded by Hamas gunmen, Ohad Ben-Ami, Or Levy, and Eli Sharabi were led to a stage, made to recite a propaganda message by Hamas, and then released to the Red Cross. The ceremony included Gazan women blessing Hamas fighters with candy.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, don't get me wrong, our heart was full of joy to see them coming back home. But it was absolutely heartbreaking to see how they've been treated, seeing on their face the hell they've been through, being starved, being abused.
Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell told CBN News Hamas is not the only one to blame.
Knowing how the international community, the United Nations organization, have failed the Israelis, that have failed the Jews over and over again, the Red Cross, who did not fight to visit them, to look after them, to provide them medications they needed or the help, the medical treatment they needed.
It also prompted a warning from President Trump speaking to reporters on Air Force One.
They were in horrible condition. They were emaciated. It looked like many years ago, the Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how much longer we can take that. You know, at some point, we're going to lose our patience.
We have again seen the monsters of Hamas. These are the same monsters who slaughtered our citizens and abused our hostages. I say to them again, they will pay the price.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog told the BBC the men were kept in tunnels throughout their entire captivity. They returned to horrific news about their families. Eli Sharabi didn't know that his wife and 2 daughters had been killed in their safe room on October 7th. And Or Levy didn't know his wife had been killed at the Nova Music Festival. Medical authorities say the freedmen suffer from malnutrition and heart disorders. Israeli media ran before and after photos to show the hostages' shocking deterioration. The daughter of released hostage Ohad Ben-Ami summed up the feeling of many in Israel.
He lost much of his weight, but not his spirit. My father is strong, and I admire him. He survived hell. The return of the hostages yesterday leaves no room for doubt. They all must return.
Netanyahu and Trump are reportedly agreed on Israel's conditions for the second phase of the ceasefire deal. That includes Hamas leaders going into exile, their military disarming, and all of the rest of the hostages being freed. Netanyahu is making clear what he sees for the future of Gaza and the hostages.
Hamas will not be there. We will eliminate Hamas and we will return our hostages.
Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, great to see you as always. And wow, incredible that they survived at all. What was different, Chris, in this hostage release than the previous ones?
Well, Wendy, obviously the condition of the hostages, the ones preceding Saturday, were relatively healthy. They had been mistreated as well, but these men in particular were visibly mistreated. The director of the Sheba General Hospital, she said, this leaves a deep and serious concern for the fate of those who remain in captivity. She was saying that keeping humans in such captivity, in such deplorable conditions, has obviously serious health consequences. The other thing, and I think it just echoes here throughout the Israelis and the Jewish people all over the world, is the reference and the echoes of the Holocaust. And to see those before and after pictures, and to see the pictures, next to some of the Holocaust survivors, it really strikes deep to the soul of Israelis and Jews worldwide.
Yeah, and we heard President Trump refer to that when he saw the condition of the released hostages. Chris, how is Hamas likely to respond to the conditions set out by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, we had some of those criteria there in a report that there would be Hamas leaders who would be exiled. They would be no longer a military force. It's likely that Hamas was going to reject those conditions, especially the releasing of the remaining hostages. And the reason is pretty obvious, Wendy, because really those hostages are Hamas's really bargaining chip. And if they lose those hostages, they really don't have anything left to sort of stand between them and the IDF. And so also for Hamas, its main demands continue to be that Israel will end the war and then remove all of its troops from Gaza. And those from the very beginning of the war, Wendy, since right after October 7th, those were non-negotiable for Israel. And I think after seeing these hostages now, I think there's two things that Israelis are feeling right now. First of all, we need to get all of the hostages out as soon as possible, and we really can't let Hamas rule in Gaza ever again.
And Chris, what are President Trump's hopes for the Gaza Strip? We've heard a little bit about this, and the Palestinians who live there.
Well, he was saying that in that brief press conference that he had on Air Force One. He wants to take care of the Palestinians. He wants to make sure that they live, as he said, beautifully and in harmony and in peace, and then not murdered. And the reference there was, you know, will Hamas actually let some of these people leave if that's possible? So this is, as he said, the most dangerous site anywhere in the world, and Hamas has been a disaster. He's also committed to his Gaza plan and willing to let other countries in on the deal and let them rebuild some of Gaza. And so he's committed to the plan and wants to make sure that Hamas does not come back.
What about the Israelis? What are you hearing from them about President Trump's Gaza plan?
We talked to some of them earlier today, Wendy. Many of them love the plan. They would love to see these Palestinians relocated. It's not the sense of ethnic cleansing. They just know for almost the last 20 years that Gazans there have been attacked. Israel, thousands and thousands of rockets. They want to live in peace, but not with people that want to destroy them. October 7th changed the thinking of many Israelis, but they really do. Many of them love Trump's plan.
Interesting. That's great to hear. All right, CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thanks as always for your insights. We're praying for you and our staff there. God bless you. Back here at home, President Trump says he's only getting started in his assault on government waste. That's next on the chopping block. The penny. Dale Hurd has the story.
President Trump has signed more executive orders in 10 days than any of his predecessors, including Joe Biden, did in 100 days. And in his quest to root out government waste, just about everything is on the table. Trump has even directed the Treasury to stop creating new pennies, calling the coin wasteful, saying it costs 2 cents to mint one. And he's announced a new round of tariffs, this time on aluminum and steel coming into the U.S.
Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
What about aluminum, sir?
Aluminum, too.
In a Fox News interview, Trump warned there are more spending cuts to come, with the goal of a $2 trillion reduction in government waste to be identified by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, saying he trusts Musk despite Democratic criticisms.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military.
Federal judges have temporarily blocked some of Trump's agenda, including his mass federal buyouts and the order putting USAID workers on leave.
We're going to see what happens. We have a long way to go, and we're talking about fraud, waste, abuse. And when a president can't look for fraud and waste and abuse, we don't have a country anymore. So we're very disappointed with the judges that would make such a ruling.
And Trump said again last night that Canada should join the United States.
I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. It's too much. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy to Canada. Now, if they're a 51st state, I don't mind doing it.
A new poll by CBS shows voters giving Trump high marks, with some 60 to 70% describing him as tough, energetic, focused, and effective, with many saying he's doing more than they expected. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Coming up, 129 ports in more than 50 countries, most owned by the Chinese Communist government. It's part of China's plot to achieve world dominance without ever firing a shot. That story when we come back. China continues to aggressively expand its global influence, specifically through control of key shipping ports. It's part of Beijing's agenda to use economic, military, and infrastructure projects as leverage to overtake the U.S. as the world's leading superpower. George Thomas brings us two key examples from Brazil and Kenya.
China wants to dominate the high seas, and so far, it's succeeding. 7 of the world's largest shipping ports are in China, with the port of Shanghai topping the list. It's the ports outside of the country's borders, though, that retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery tells CBN News concerns Washington and its allies the most.
China's primary goal is access for resource extraction, access for future operations. But that access has the long-term goal of China displacing the United States as the economic partner of choice globally.
These red dots show China's growing network of ports spanning each ocean and continent. Chinese companies, most owned by the communist government, have spent billions building 129 ports in more than 50 countries, many along vital and strategic shipping lanes.
Most of the stuff you buy crosses the world by sea. But shipping containers don't just hold goods. They hold something else, too. Power. And China is all in.
Peru's Chancay port is Beijing's latest mega port project, inaugurated in November by China's President Xi Jinping.
This is a significant development, a significant win, frankly, for the Chinese Communist Party in Latin America, in our American neighborhood.
At a cost of nearly $4 billion, China's state-owned COSCO Shipping controls 60% of the port and states it will reduce shipping time between China and South America by 10 days.
It's going to become the shipping hub between China and South America.
This is absolutely crucial for China because China's only hope right now to rescue its grim situation at home on the economy is to export more. They realize they're being shut out of developed markets like the U.S., Canada, and as well the European Union, so they need what they call the Global South.
Today, China is South America's largest trading partner. And here in Brazil, the most populous and largest in the region, trade with Beijing surpasses the United States by a ratio of 2-to-1. Brad Bowman, Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, says that America is dangerously losing influence in its own backyard, with countries historically aligned with Washington.
In many respects, we're just getting out-hustled by the Chinese Communist Party. We're taking our position for granted. And my read of history tells me that if you take what you have for granted and you don't compete and you don't defend it, that you're going to lose it.
Military experts express concerns that China's aggressive ownership of these international ports might allow it to gain military leverage, such as eventually hosting Chinese naval assets.
So is a port dual use? Of course it is, right? Because this massive new port in Peru might be serving large container ships today, but it can service PLA Navy vessels tomorrow.
Montgomery says many ports operated by COSCO Shipping use a digital management software system called Logic to monitor ship and cargo movements. That system is also government-owned.
If the Chinese run your integrated management system for your ports, they're going to have undue influence during a crisis or casualty when you're trying to move military supplies or parts. And the Chinese have the ability to rapidly disrupt your port operating systems. They really have incredible insight into world trade. insight into military and security movements, and potentially the opportunity to disrupt them.
In 2013, President Xi launched China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the New Silk Road, stretching from East Asia to Europe, Africa, and South America. China has spent more than $1 trillion building roads, railways, power grids, ports, and more, all to gain influential international partnerships. As part of its Belt and Road Initiative, China has also been spending quite a bit of money on the African continent. For example, in 2022, it built this major highway connecting the international airport with downtown Nairobi.
In Africa, between 2013 and 2023, China made over $800 billion worth of Belt and Road Initiative investments in Africa. That's a staggering sum. As a result, we're being rapidly displaced as the economic security partner of choice.
Whether in Africa, South America, or Asia, experts say it's clear China is on a mission to become the world's leading superpower.
China sees the United States as an existential threat, not because of anything that we say or do, but because of who we are. You have an insecure regime in Beijing is worried about the inspirational impact of America's values and form of governance over the Chinese people. So China wants to get rid of the United States because it believes that it will never be safe or secure as long as the American Republic exists.
Bowman says China's leaders want to accomplish this dominance without firing a shot.
They understand that a war with the United States would be very costly for them. So as Sun Tzu said more than 2.5 millennia ago, the acme of skill is to win without fighting. And by fighting, he meant bombs, bullets, and guns. So China is trying to defeat us without having to fire a kinetic shot, but they're firing shots already in the information, economic, and cyber domains. This problem is that Americans don't realize it, and predators like nothing better than slumbering prey.
George Thomas, CBN News, reporting from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and Nairobi, Kenya.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Super Bowl 59 is over, and the Philadelphia Eagles took home the Lombardi Trophy. Before the game, many artists performed at the pregame show, including Christian artist Lauren Diagle, who sang a jazzy rendition of America the Beautiful. Lauren says she feels vindicated after the way she was treated years ago. For more on this story, we're joined by FaithWire.com's Trey Goins-Phillips. Trey, tell us more. What happened to Lauren? I saw her performance. It was amazing. Why does she feel vindicated now?
Hey, Wendy. So, yeah, several years ago in 2020, she actually accidentally ended up participating in a Let Us Worship rally that was held by Sean Foyt, a friend of hers. He was obviously kind of pushing back against COVID restrictions. She was actually on a bike ride in Louisiana, and she stumbled upon this rally. She saw her friend on the stage, went over there, and he asked her to sing. She sang. The government, though, didn't love that because, again, this was a protest of COVID-19 restrictions. So when she was being considered to potentially participate in the 2020 going into 2021 New Year's Eve celebration, the Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve celebration, the mayor of New Orleans wanted her to be removed, so that she released a statement, said, don't even consider Lauren to perform because she put our citizens at risk by participating in this event, the Sean Foyt rally. So she was kind of blacklisted at the time, even though she wasn't officially listed as a performer potentially for this New Year's Eve celebration, but she was on the short list to be considered. So she said in a recent interview, now 5 years later, being asked to participate in the Super Bowl in her hometown of New Orleans feels like vindication to her.
That's interesting. I didn't realize she was from New Orleans, but think about the big stage, the worldwide stage that God gave her, you know, double for her trouble, you could say. Trey, shifting gears a bit, there's a longtime Disneyland employee who's suing the company over alleged overt attacks on her Christian faith. Can you tell us more about this?
So there's a woman named Candace McGee. She's been a security lead, or had been a security lead, for 23 years at Disneyland in California. And she made comments that ultimately ended up in her losing her job. The comments were made in an internal social media platform. And according to a lawsuit, the entire ordeal left McGee feeling, quote, deeply distressed over, quote, overt attacks on her religious beliefs. Most, like I said, stemmed from this internal communications app that started after Florida's wrongfully labeled Don't Say Gay bill was passed, the Parental Rights Bill of 2022. Bob Iger released a statement at the time after internal meetings with staffers. And that, according to that meeting with Iger, according to McGee, quote, generated considerable bias against Christians, as well as conflating Christian conservatives with all things Christian. She reportedly then received messages that, in the lawsuit, quote, directly or indirectly attacked religion, religious values, and placed the discussion in the context of a culture war, pitting religion, perceptions concerning religion, and specifically Christianity, against other views. And ultimately, McGee began responding, feeling like her faith was being attacked, even that the Bible was being attacked. So she began responding, and she said in her lawsuit she responded generously and tried to be compassionate, but was nevertheless met with HR meetings that ultimately led to her being dismissed from her job, while, according to the lawsuit, those who were critical of her and of Christianity faced no repercussions. So now she is filing a suit against Disney, claiming religious discrimination took place and that was the reason she lost her job.
All right, we're out of time, but people can check you out on Faith versus Culture. And Trey, we thank you so much for joining us today on CBN NewsWatch. God bless.
Thanks, Wendy.
You too. Coming up, does Kansas City Chiefs Travis Kelce have an historic twin? Wow, look at that. See for yourself after the break. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Well, does Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs have a doppelganger? Executive Director Sarah Bader King of the Alexander Major House Museum says yes. The museum is in honor of Alexander Majors, a Kansas City businessman who co-founded the Pony Express. A visitor at the museum took a picture of Majors and it went viral. Travis Kelce says he's aware of the photo and has even mentioned it on his podcast called New Heights, and mentioned that it was like looking at himself in the mirror. The executive director at the museum says Alexander Majors was as famous as Travis during his lifetime. Incredible. Well, that's going to do it for us at CBN NewsWatch. From all of us here, thanks for joining us and have a great day, and God bless.